Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on the channel we have my definitive review of Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game, the second edition, including the Descendants expansion, and all from a solo perspective. So I know we've done a few videos lately on Fallen Land. I've taken a detailed look at what you get in the expansion. We've done a detailed unboxing and comparison of the second edition and the first edition. And I recently did that one thing I love about Fallen Land, where I did take a look at a lot of the documentation, the game documentation. And I think that Fallen Land is the gold standard for board game documentation. If they were to teach a class at Board Game U all about designing documentation for your board game, Fallen Land would be the premier example of how to do it right. And all other game designers, publishers, developers take note on how Fallen Land does its documentation. It is so good because you get the quick start guide, you get the really amazing first player sheet that walks you through the entire game, and you get the scenario book, and you get a super detailed, well-written rule book that comes with incredible examples and just explains a pretty fiddly game in such a great way. And once you've read the rulebook once and you get the game back to the table after a month or so, you can very, very quickly relearn everything you need to play the game just from this really brief quick start guide and by following the first player sheet. I cannot stress this enough, how important board game documentation is to a game. And I also cannot overstate how many board games completely fail in this department. So on a big kind of epic scope, and you'll see here I have my wide angle selection here to show that yes, everything for this game, playing as solo, does fit on my small gaming table. Longtime viewers of the Dungeon Dive will know that I do not have a big gaming table, and I will never have a big gaming table. My house is small. My hobby room is small. It's 10 by 10. So I'm not one of those lucky guys who can just keep every game with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games and having those big, giant, fancy, expensive gaming tables. Nope. My focus on the hobby is keeping things relatively confined to a small, barely 3x4 table. And so Fallen Land playing solo does fit on this table. We will kind of zoom in a little bit more when we get down into some of the detail. But at a high level, Fallen Land is a post-apocalyptic adventure game, and it is one of the finest adventure games that I've ever played. That is a fact that will be made evident when I very soon present my top 10 adventure games of all time. So spoiler alert, you will be seeing Fallen Land on that top 10 because it's just so good. If you like games like Talisman and Runebound, or Sleeping Gods, or Touch of Evil, or Fortune and Glory, just all those big epic adventure games, the kinds of games where you move across a map, either on squares or in this case a hex crawl map, and you are moving, and every time you end your turn, you draw a card to face some kind of challenge. You have a whole bunch of characters, you get a whole bunch of loot. There are all kinds of little adventures to go on, things to discover, and just lots of adventure to be had. If you like those kinds of games, and you also happen to like the post-apocalyptic theme and setting, there just isn't a better game than Fallen Land. This is like a top tier, S tier board game design right here. And one of the things that I did want to show quickly, we won't spend a lot of time talking about the documentation because we already have, but I did want to briefly mention one page here in the documentation. And I think this just kind of shows how thoughtful the designers are in this game. So in this last page of the rule book, 41 pages here, on page 41, we get the full game credits. And this game started development in 2005. And it kind of finished up its development of second edition in 2022. So that is 17 years of design, of refinement, of iterative change that has gone into creating Fallen Land Second Edition. And I think all of those years, all of that work, all of that effort, all of that labor of love is shown on the table and in every component and in every facet of this game while you are playing it. So we have the kind of the core group here. We have John Longren, Sean Cahill, Bill Pitcher, and Brian Nash, and they have all kind of been involved with the game. John and Sean are the two main guys. They've been involved with the game since 2005 to 2022, and currently. We have all of the artists that did the touch-up art and the new art for second edition, because this game comes with a ton of art and most of it was redone for second edition, or at least greatly touched up. We have Aaron J. Riley, Aaron Acevedo, and Bien from Pinnacle Entertainment Group. We have Sean Howard, Jim Birge, and Joe Kirschling. And then we have contributors that worked on the first edition. We have Warren Ripley, Patrick Tall, Pat Phillips, Justin Jones, and Eric Lemke. And unfortunately, two of the kind of original people that have worked on the game have died since the game was in development. And that is Eric Lemke, and then down here, one of the first edition editors also passed away, and that would be Joe Lower. And we also have Carter Allen, Casey Reardon, Sean Ike, Scott Warren, John Cleve, Wes Reese, David Rich, and Javier Silva. Just the fact that they would just kind of show the years that this game was in development and all of the major contributors to every edition of the game and what they did, what they worked on in detail, I think just shows what a thoughtful creation Fallen Land is. So in this single player game that I am playing here, I am playing one of the easy modes for solo play. There are quite a few different scenarios that you can play, and those are found in this scenario book. And each one of those scenarios will have a more complex kind of setup and a different kind of win condition that is separate from the main win condition of the base game. When you are just playing the base game out of the box competitively, it's kind of a race game to either get a certain number of town prestige or a certain number of town health. And you get town health by building different upgrades to your town, and you get prestige by going out and going on missions and going on quests, basically. But there are a number of scenarios that change those win conditions that will make things more like a race across the country, or you might have to go from one point to the next doing a more complex kind of a narrative string of events. There are all kinds of different scenarios. Now, I have not played any of these scenarios. My favorite way to play the game, and the way that I'll play it most often, I do want to eventually check out the scenarios because they do sound interesting. And you can also string some of the scenarios together to create your kind of your own custom campaign if you wanted to play a longer, more campaign style game. But I like to play just a race to get the victory points, because in that way it is an open world sandbox adventure game. And you can very easily play a solo variant of that by playing against a ghost opponent. And that opponent at the end of each turn will roll a single D10, and they will get a random number of victory points just depending on how you rolled. It's very simple. It's pretty hard because the Ghost AI, they get a lot of victory points, and so it is really keeping you on your toes. As of right now, the AI player is completely destroying me. They will probably win, and a lot of that has to do with luck of that roll, but I'm okay with that. So right now, the AI has 8 prestige and I have 4, and the AI has 44 health and town health, and I have 37. So let's take a look at my town, who I am playing as. We'll take a look at my roster, my party of heroes, my party of survivors, and what they are equipped with, so we can kind of take a look at some of the amazing loot. And then we'll take a look at some of the town events that I have going on. I'll quickly take a look at the opponent I'm playing against. And then we'll do maybe one or two detailed turns going through this first player sheet, so you can really get an idea. This isn't a teach video, but you can get an idea of how the game is structured and what happens from one moment to the next. Okay, let's talk about my game so far. So I am playing as the Brotherhood, and they start in St. George, Utah, which is right here. I'm actually at my starting location now. I just went back to heal some damage there. Went back to my hometown. Every player's hometown will have an auction house, and that's where you can store gear that you're not using at the moment. And during a multiplayer game, it's kind of a free for all. You can auction off the items. Other players can buy the items in your auction house. You can sell them to them. You can trade them for materials or for salvage. You can trade them for other loot. You can trade them for action cards. There's a huge deck of action cards. We'll talk about the action cards in a bit. Each town will also have a town roster, and that's where your characters who aren't in your party, that's where they hang out, waiting to be chosen, waiting to be sent out on missions. When you go out from your town, you will take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters with your town sheet, and those 5 survivors will be your party. And your party can also be joined. You can also have a vehicle for your party, and we'll talk about that too, because I do have a vehicle right now. So I am playing as the Brotherhood. Again, they start in Utah. They started with 2 town technologies. They started with energy production and water and supplies. And each one of these gives me a +1 guaranteed success for any technical challenges and for any survival challenges. These town technologies, they can be purchased during a town phase, and there are, I think, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 different technologies. Each one of those will give you some kind of bonus and also give you a bonus to achieving your victory. And each one of these can also be, you can pay the price there to upgrade it to its level 2 ability, and then that will give you additional things that will help you out from one turn to the next. So those were my 2 town starting technologies. And I also recently acquired this medical center, which gives me a +1 to all medical tests. So that will help me out also in healing if I take a lot of damage. Let's read a little bit about the Brotherhood, because one of the things that this game really excels at is the flavor text. And there's a lot of it. So there is a lot of reading in this game. Not quite as much as reading from an adventure book, but it does pretty much get to the limit of what I would want to read on a card for a single encounter. I don't think I would want to play this game with more than 3 players. I think it could really bog down with the reading, although I haven't played the game with over that many before. Okay, so this says, we'll just read the first paragraph here. The red sandstone bluffs surrounding St. George provided little protection from the fallout of the dusted West Coast cities. As you can see on the map here, all of these orange spaces, those are irradiated spaces. So those are spaces that took a lot of heavy damage in this nuclear fallout here. And the coastal cities, where most of the population of the United States lives, on the East Coast here and on the West Coast over here, are very deadly and very irradiated and very dangerous to go through. Isolated and forgotten, the windswept town of St. George was forced to turn inward and become more and more xenophobic against outdwellers. For a while, the arid soil provided subsistence farming, but when this failed, scouting parties were dispatched to locate what they needed to survive. The mysterious Yucca Mountain facility was discovered during one such excursion. Stockpiled with decommissioned nuclear weapons and radioactive waste, this massive complex provided the chance for a profound change to their society. Things were never the same. Perhaps it was the prolonged radioactive exposure during its exploration, or perhaps it was something else entirely. But the place changed them and warped their minds. The once devout populace of St. George started down a dark and sinister path the day they formed their cult. Now, with each passing generation, the history and secrets of the Brotherhood of the Apocalypse become more shrouded in mystery. That's a really cool background for a character, for a town, for a group of survivors in this kind of post-apocalyptic setting. I love it. Now, the character that the group that I am playing against, it doesn't really matter who you are playing against when you're playing the mode that I am, but I just chose something at random to give me something, maybe to give me a little bit of background. But that is the Preservationists, and they start in Ontario, which is up in Canada. And that's one of the major changes between first and second edition is the inclusion of some Canadian territories and some Mexican territories. So now there are two factions that can start in Mexico, just south of Texas there, and there are two factions that can start up in Ontario, just north of the Great Lakes up there in Canada. And so those regions are new regions to the second edition board. If you have first edition and you bought the Descendants expansion, which comes with those new factions, you can also buy a new map from the website in order to play that. You don't need to buy the whole new second edition to upgrade just the map. And yes, this game is still available to purchase from the Fallen Dominion website, which is amazing. I'm so glad that they're going to keep this game in production and allow people to buy it at retail. So that means that if I'm enticing you right now, this isn't one of those games where if you miss the Kickstarter, you're SOL. You can immediately go and buy this game. That is so cool. Okay, let's take a look at my characters now. So this is going to be a pretty long review. So for those of you who like my long videos, I hope you enjoy this one. So right now, my first character here is Bruce Stevens. And Bruce Stevens is an exile. He's got a fantastic ability that allows me to all hexes cost 1 movement when Bruce is in the party. So different hexes will cost a different number of movement points. And mountains are cost 2, cities and radiation hexes cost 3, cities cost 3. But as long as Bruce is in my party, everything just costs 1 because he's an exile. And his little bit of flavor text says that my last group sent me out here to die. I didn't. Oh, that's so cool. So he kind of knows the terrain really well. And the map also has a really a handy key just off the camera here that tells you what all of the different hexes mean. Excellent job there. But so Bruce is pretty cool because he will give me that movement. And also, if my party has a 4-wheeled vehicle, because you have this link here, any characters that have this chain link icon on their character, that means that if you have something that links in that party to that character, then you get this additional bonus. Some links will include links to other characters. There might be a husband and wife, and maybe they're separated across the country. And when that husband and wife team, when that partnership comes together, then they will get a bonus. I love that. It is so cool. There's so many different ways that the mechanisms, the things, the theming, all of the different parts of this game are interwoven together to create such a great cohesive experience. I do want to talk real quickly though. Let's back up from the characters and go to my party my party equipment, because not only do your characters get gear, but you can also outfit your entire party with similar gear. For instance, I have an armored car. So this armored car is going to give me a +2 to movement. And because this is a 4-wheeled vehicle, it's a car, then I also get a +2 to my movement because of Bruce's power there. So I have a +4 to my movement already. And this armored car is equipped with a M134 mounted machine gun. Awesome. I love that. So I have this armored car with a machine gun on top. And I also have a Geiger counter, which is a stowable equipment. So that means that can go into your vehicle here. And this prevents me from taking radiation damage, which is excellent. So I can, not only because of Bruce, not only can I move through all the terrain using only 1 movement each, but I can also, because of that Geiger counter, I can also move through the radiated spaces without taking radiation damage. Now, each one of your characters and your vehicles will have a certain number there, and that tells you how much gear they can hold. So this vehicle here can hold 12 pieces of gear, or 12 weight. And right now I have a weight of 7. And so I can hold 5 more pounds or 5 more pieces of gear there. Now, my party, you also have items that you can equip to your entire party. And I've been very lucky with some draws in this game. Right now, I have five 9mm semi-automatic pistols, and this is equipped to everyone or no one. So if there's somebody in your party who can't use range gear, you can't use this, but all of my characters can use range weapons. And so all of my characters are equipped with these pistols. I also have this ammo. And if all of your characters that are equipped with range, then you also get a +2 to your combat. So everybody benefits from that. I found this armor, which everybody benefits from. And normally this armor can't be worn with any additional clothes except for some special equipment, which this card can be utilized with armor. So this combination of 4 cards is really helping out my party with their combat skills. So lots of combat bonuses here with this stack of 4 cards. And that's really one of the neat things about this game, just how everything works together. So Bruce is armed with my Vendetta daggers. Vendetta daggers were a piece of starting equipment unique to the Brotherhood. It's a relic, so he has those. He also has another automatic pistol. He has a basic med kit and Bruce's nunchucks. Yeah, I think that would be Bruce Lee's nunchucks, but I thought that was really cool that it's Bruce. So yeah, Bruce there. Bruce has found his nunchucks. And each of the characters will have a number of stats. You will have your combat stat. You will have your survival, diplomacy, mechanical, technical, and medical, and then how much gear they can hold, their health, and then their psychological stat. And the way that stat tests work in this game is pretty interesting. There is a lot of bookkeeping in this game because you do need to keep a constant total of all of those numbers for their stats. And every time you get new gear, every time you get something new, those numbers are changing. So to help with that bookkeeping, I have created, and this is available on Board Game Geek, but I have created this Fallen Land character and town sheet. And I have a row for each of my characters. So the red character, orange, green. The characters are associated with these crowns. So red, orange, green, blue, and yellow. And then those will also be associated with a similar color die with a corresponding D10 for your tests. And so to keep track of everything, I have all of their skills in columns here. So we have combat, survival, diplomacy, mechanical, technical, medical, their equipment load. And then I also have a place there. I added a place for armor. And then I have here some places where you can keep notes for your characters and also notes for your town. Because I do kind of have a strict rule in this game because there is so much to keep track of. And keeping track of this stuff is a really important part of this game because you as the player, you're not really playing one of these characters. You are playing the leader of your town. And so it's kind of up to you to keep track of things. And so I have a pretty strict house rule where if you forget something, if you forget one of your powers, if you forget one of your bonuses or something that can help you, you can't go back. It's up to the player to keep track of everything. So that's why I created this sheet and it is very handy. So as you can see, Bruce here has a 28 combat, 16 survival, 7 diplomacy, 9 mechanical, 6 technical, 8 medical, and I am carrying 11 out of 16. That might need to be upgraded. Updated. I might need to take a look at that. But so this is what I use. It does make the game a little slower because every time I do get a new piece of equipment, I do erase it and just make sure that everything is up to date, so that I can play as fairly as possible because there's a lot of stuff to keep track of in this game. And my second character here, the orange on the orange crown, is Red Noxala, Lieutenant Commander, I believe. So he's some kind of military guy here. It takes 2 in the chest and 1 in the head to touch the hearts and minds of your enemy. Okay, buddy. He's armed here with a soldering kit and another automatic pistol. You can just load up your characters with weapons as long as they're under the total weight. You can have as many weapons or as many of the same types of things on each character. So all characters, I can ignore 1 point of radiation damage, and then once per game, I can reroll a failed skill check. And we'll talk about skill checks in a bit. Okay, so my green character here, my third character is Benny Ocean, the holistic hippie medical doctor. Just relax and trust me, man. I'm a real doctor, man. While performing and healing the healing deed, I can heal extra. So he's really good with healing. He has a link to any kind of medical equipment, which will make medical equipment more powerful if he is using it. And he is armed, or he is equipped with a forged government credentials, a basic med kit, and a compass and map here. And I can discard to gain 1 prestige. So I could actually discard this to gain 1 victory point towards my win condition. But it also gives me a +5 to my diplomacy rolls. So that's pretty good there. Or my diplomacy skill, I should say. My blue character here, my 4th character, is Laura Winborn. And what can I do to convince you to join us? So she is kind of a recruiter, and she has a power that during each effects phase, I can roll a d6. And on a 1, 2, or 2, I get to draw a new character into my town roster. That's super cool. And then she is looking to be equipped with a bullwhip or a top-of-the-line stun gun, which I haven't found yet. But when she finds one of those, she will gain +2 to her combat and another +1 to her diplomacy. She has an ally here, and so she has Patton the dog. She has a military rifle, and she has some camping gear, which will allow her some better survival checks. Okay, and my final character here, character number 5, the yellow crown here, is Mac Luther. Frickin' amateurs. I don't die that easy. If Mac is killed in PvP, so I'm not playing any kind of PvP, so that power won't be necessary. He has a link to heavy weapons. If I find any heavy weapons, I get a +1 to my combat and a +1 to my survival. He is using a melee weapon. So this melee weapon has this dagger symbol here. Melee weapons can always be used, but some challenges will say melee only. And so at that time, you only count your melee weapons. So it is a really good idea to have your characters equipped with both melee and ranged weapons. He has a Special Forces manual, and he also has a snub-nose 357 revolver. So my characters are pretty combat heavy. Down here, I wrote my guaranteed successes. And so when I take a challenge, I have 9 combat successes. I have 4 survival successes, 1 diplomacy success, 2 technical, 1 medical, 0 mechanical. So I need to really try to find gear that's going to boost my diplomacy, mechanical, technical, and medical, because I did recently just fail one of those and it prevented me from overcoming a challenge that would have really helped me in my game. Let's briefly take a look through my character or my party's past to see what kind of things they have done. So I have found a mutant encampment and I tried to destroy some of their boats, but this is one of the ones where I failed, so I wasn't able to get the success for that. I found this crew captures and forcefully interrogates a band of dangerous highwaymen, and I found their stash of loot, so that was kind of cool. There was this incremental weather that destroyed a space on the map and caused some damage in the surrounding hexes, and that's actually right here. This can actually be removed now because it only stayed out for 1 turn. I found some other mutants that I had to deal with, and I was able to succeed. So this was a mission. So there are various types of encounter cards. You can have plains cards, mountain cards, and city and radiation cards. Depending on where you are on the map, you encounter that hex. And then there are all these missions. And these missions, every time you land on a mission chit, you roll a D100 and you move that mission chit to the next space. So the missions are kind of constantly appearing all over the board. Right now, it just so happens that the East Coast here has the majority of the missions with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 missions towards the East Coast. And then we have a mission up here and a mission over here. And so the missions are really good encounter cards in order to gain some prestige. And then this is one of the action cards I use that would guarantee me a success in one of my town events cards. And the town events cards are from the Descendants expansion, and these are really, really cool. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about those. Speaking of that, I do have 1 town event card that is ongoing. And in this town event, whenever I encounter a mountain space and have a successful encounter there, I add a chit to that card. And then during my exploits phase, during my action phase, I can discard 3 of these tokens to gain a +3 to my movement. It's kind of like you're surveying. I really do like that. I think that's super cool. So those town events from that expansion are really, really cool. They go a long way in making the game even more fun and more thematic. So besides the new locations in second edition, which includes a little bit of Mexico and a little tiny sliver of Canada, the other major change beyond all of the updated art and the new art is a little bit of a change to the overall flow of the game. And the biggest difference would be the town event phase. So in first edition, the town event part of the game takes place during the town business phase. That's towards the beginning of your turn. In second edition, that takes place at the very end of your turn. And I think that change was made to coincide with the new deck of town event cards that comes with the Descendants expansion. And the reason is, let's go over that right now. So let's do a couple of example turns and kind of see how this game is played. So yes, this first player sheet is super handy. Whoever the first player is, they control the game. They are they are the chairperson of the Council of Towns for that turn. And you follow this guide here, and it tells you exactly what to do on a full turn. Each of the players will go through each one of these phases in turn order, and then this gets passed around the table. Of course, I'm only playing solo, so I will always be the chairperson of the Council of Towns. So the first phase here is the effects phase, and this is kind of an upkeep phase. You are resolving certain effects. You are resolving world encounters and other card effects that might be out on the board. If any of your characters are infected, then they will take increased infection damage. They will get wounds for being infected. And at this time, you also discard players or discard characters who have taken psychological damage, who have too much PTSD, basically. Each one of your characters has a psychological stat. And when you are told to test your psychology, you roll a d10 and you have to roll that value or under. So rolling low in this game is almost always good for any kind of stat test. And so if you ever roll higher than your psychology stat, then you take a point of psych damage. And during that effects phase, if any of your characters have 3 points of psych damage, they are discarded. They take off from your party. They just go off because they have a psychological breakdown, they have a mental breakdown, and they take all of their gear with them. So you want to make sure, just like in real life, make sure you are mentally healthy. Mental health is so important, and it's really, really important also. Well, it's really, really important in real life and entertainingly important in Fallen Land. But so we don't really have anything to do with the effects phase. So now we kind of go on to our first main phase, and that is the town business phase. In the town business phase, each player deals, it receives 1 action card. And if you're playing with the Descendants expansion, you get a town events card. Let's take a look at the action deck first. So when you are playing solo, you will actually have 2 different action decks. You will have your standard action deck, and you will have your red dot action deck. All of your action cards, all of the cards in the game that have a red dot, that means that they are meant for competitive play, that they are meant for either kind of a take that action or some kind of direct conflict with the other players. So when you're playing solo, you want to take out all of your red dot action cards. There will be certain times when you roll something and the game will tell you to draw one of the red dot cards while you are playing solo, and then you just draw that and you play it on your character. You play it on your party to the best of your ability to make it as bad as possible. But there are all kinds of things. You can be attacked by zombies, heinous atrocities. Somebody can be kidnapped and held for ransom. There might be disturbing rumors. And every single one of these cards is different, and every single one has a unique piece of art. Galvanized, merciless slaughter. And also in this deck, for when you are playing solo, you will place all of your NPC mercenary cards. And The NPC mercenaries are a group of mercenaries that can come out and they can go out and if you're playing competitively, you can hire them to go out on missions for you. And if you're playing solo, they may come out on the board just to try to attack you or to attack your town or something like that. Physical mutation. Oh my God, look at that. That is so cool. Hope and solidarity, irradiated. So these are all of the kind of take that cards in my red dot deck. And so that gets separated out, and then you will draw those at certain times. And my other deck here is the non-red dot action deck. And this is the deck of things that I will draw, and I can keep these to play on myself. And these will include all kinds of really cool things that can help you out, from passing missions to gaining bonuses to just all kinds of things that you get to play in. You get to play in reaction to things that happen to you. You get to play to prevent damage, to prevent bad things from happening to you, to automatically overcoming challenges, to finding new kinds of things, new kinds of special loot and characters that might be in this deck. So this is a really cool deck. Again, every single card is different. Every single card has a unique piece of art. And most of the art for second edition was at least touched up, and most of it was actually redone and to be more cohesive. So we will draw one action card. So I'll draw my action card for this turn, and that should have been discarded. I already saw that one. And we have a clandestine operation. Play during my party exploits phase. Look at one opponent's hand of action cards and choose to keep one. So this probably should, this might be a mistake. This sounds like something that you might want to have a red dot on. I'm not sure. Your party may then move up to 10 hexes. So I guess you could still use this to move the 10 hexes. You just wouldn't get to do this portion of it. So that's why it's not a red dot. There is still some benefit to playing this card in the solo game. So, okay, so we'll keep that. And then we draw a town event card. And like I said, this comes from the expansion. And this event deck is really cool. So at the beginning of your turn, you will draw one of these cards. And you will encounter the card at the end of your turn. So you kind of have a whole turn, which is a month of game time, to try to do this card, to try to accomplish the goals on this card. Sometimes these will carry over from one turn to the next. Sometimes they will need to be accomplished on the turn they are drawn. So let's read this. This is a protectorate. The race to make your faction's town the safest and most advanced in the Fallen Land is no easy challenge. Building and growing your town is also a great way to show primacy and leadership. Not only will it help your citizens live an easier life, but it is sure to draw heroes to your faction's cause. If you purchase any new town technologies this turn, you may also purchase an additional tier 2 upgrade this turn. So normally you can only do that once. However, those are really expensive. They're like anywhere from 30 to 80 scrap, and I have 10, 13, I have 18 or 16. So that's not going to happen. During my end turn phase, so at the end of this month of game time, at the end of this turn, if I have 4 or more town technologies, draw 3 character cards and place them in your town roster. So if I have more technology, that's drawing more characters, more survivors to my town because they feel like it's safe. I have 3 right now: the medical center, the water and supplies, and the energy production. If I can somehow get another one during this turn, I will get that advantage. If you have 4 or more and possess more than any other player, you gain something addition. For solo variants, have at least 40 town health. Okay, my town health is 37, so I need to get up to 40 town health in order to take advantage of that. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. So this is something that I can keep in mind during this turn, and I will have to deal with at the end of this turn. I like that. I think it kind of gives you a little bit of direction, of thematic direction from one turn to the next. Okay, so that was the draw phase. Next is the resource production phase. Receive all town health and salvage coins from resources. I have 1 resource, so I gain 1 salvage coin and 1 town health, which bumps me up to 38 town health. In a short game, you're trying to get to 50 town health, In a long game, you're trying to get to 80, or in a short game, you're trying to get to 10 prestige or 20 prestige for a long game. So I like that there are also shorter games. Again, really, really thoughtful design here. Now, one of my characters or my Brotherhood, one of their special perks is they are wasteland scavengers. So this is something I need to remember. Each town business phase, I can roll a d6 and gain that many salvage coins. Okay, 4. So I will gain 4 salvage coins. Let's see. Let's discard 6 here and 4, and we'll take a 10. So I now have 21 salvage coins. Okay, so that was resource production. Financial phase, we have the auction house, sell and purchase. So this is where you can sell and purchase your town technologies or your town defense chips. The town defense chips aren't super important in solo play, but these are chips that you can add to your starting town. And these will grant protection to your town and protection to any of the resource spaces that you control out on the board. So these are far more important in the standard competitive version. And the auction house in solo play, because there are no other players that have an auction house, which might include things for me to buy, what I do is I draw 3 random spoils, and I can choose to purchase any of these, and those will go into my auction house. And any items that are in my auction house, I can equip when I'm at my starting town, which I am right now. Okay, so these are the items that are available. A backpacking equipment. So this will give me a +2 to my survival, a +1 to my medical, and give me a +5 to my carrying capacity. So the backpack will allow me to carry more, and it costs 10. Here we have Elvis's sunglasses. This is a relic. It costs 13, and that gives me a +1 to everything, all of my skills, and it costs 0 to hold. And here we have a melee weapon, which is a knife. I think I'm just going to buy the melee weapon. It's always good to have a melee weapon on each one of your characters. And let's see, I am actually going to give that to Laura Winborn. And so that will cost me 3. So I'll put in this 5. And I'll take 2 1s out. I'm not going to buy these, so these get discarded. Now, normally this would go into my storage, but since I'm at my town, I can go ahead and equip that. And so we will equip that to Laura here. And so we will update her stats. So this will give her a +2 to her combat. And so she's the blue character here. So blue character will give you a +2 to combat. So that'll bring her combat up to 24. That'll give her a +2 to survival. Okay, so +2 to survival. A +1 to mechanical. That's nice. I really need to upgrade my mechanical. And a +2 to my medical. So that brings her up to an 8 medical. Every 10 points is basically a guaranteed success for when you are attempting a challenge. And so it's always good to try to get your character's skills up to at least 10. Okay, so that was the auction house, selling and purchasing. I'm not going to purchase any town technologies or sell any. I can hire NPCs if there were any available. They are not. Next, we go on to the exploit phase, which is going to be the first part of your exploit phase is your NPC mercenaries. I don't have any on the board, so we will skip that. And so now we go into our main phase, and this is where the players will take their party deeds, and that's when you will go out and accomplish tasks. Now, you have a month to do things, and the different deeds that you can take cost a certain number of weeks. To move, it costs 1 week. To have an encounter, it costs a week. To do a PvP deed, it costs a week, but I will never do that in a solo game. To overtake one of these resources, it costs 2 weeks. To take a healing deed, to heal, it costs 2 weeks. And to try to accomplish one of these missions, it takes 3 weeks. One really cool aspect of this game is if you only have 1 week left, you can do something that costs more than 1 week. You will just be delayed on your next turn. So you might be delayed 1 week, or you might be delayed 2 weeks. And so right now on this turn, because of I took a healing deed at the end of my last turn, but I only had 1 week left, that means that I'm delayed this turn by 1 week. So this week, I only get 3 weeks to do things in this month. And I want to try to get one of these resources here. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is a movement deed. And the movement deed, you roll a d6 and then you add your movement bonus. My movement bonus is 5 because of my vehicle and because of a couple other bonuses that my characters have here. Okay, 6, excellent. So 6, 7, 8, 11. I almost added 3, but adding 5, 11. Great. I can easily get to that resource there. Now, because of Bruce's special power, I can go through any hex at the cost of 1. And because of my Geiger counter in my vehicle, which I'm driving, I will not take any radiation damage for going through irradiated spots. This is perfect. So I have 11. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to get to that resource. Now, after a movement deed, you have to do a certain other deed before you can do a movement deed or a healing deed. You have to do an encounter deed, a resource deed, or a mission deed after movement. So movement cost me 1. Okay, so now I have 2 weeks left. To gain this neutral resource, this resource is not controlled by any player, any party. I have to have an encounter there, and I can choose to have an encounter in a plains, a mountain, or a city rad encounter. The plains are easy, the mountains are medium, the city rad are more difficult, but you will also get better bonuses depending on how difficult the encounter is. But I am going to just do a plains encounter. Okay, so that will be an encounter deed is 1 week. So I have 1 week left. So I will draw my plains card here. Okay, cattle rustlers. Desperate for fuel and intending to barter, you approach a small settlement. After a brief discussion amongst themselves, the locals agree to trade with you if you help them first. They need you to apprehend a group of cattle rustlers and return their stolen herd. If you are successful, they promise not only to trade with your group, but to make a long-term trade agreement with your faction. You question them thoroughly and acquire all of the relevant information about these rustlers. Setting out, you follow their tracks into the hills. Okay, the first thing you do is you gain 3 salvage chips. So you gain a little bonus just for attempting this encounter. The next thing I need to do is I need to do a survival test with 3 successes and a combat test with 6 successes. Okay, so let's take a look at my character sheet here. My survival skill, I have a guaranteed 4 successes unless I roll any 10s. So I can actually negate some of those. If you roll a 10, it's kind of like busting. And so I will still need to roll. And then I need to follow that up with 6 combat encounter or 6 combat successes, which I do have a guarantee of 9. So let's do my survival test first. You roll all of your D10s, including the D10 for a vehicle if you have one. Okay, so let's take all of my D10s here. We don't need the D12. And we will roll those. Okay, so I like to use this D12 here to keep track of how many successes I have. Now we do have one bust here. So the yellow character busted. I'm just going to put these in order here of my characters on the board here since my characters are down off the map. So we have red, orange, green, blue, and yellow. Okay, so we are testing survival. My red character, Bruce, he has a 16. So that is 1 success at 10. And then the remainder is your new target number for an additional success. I rolled a 6. The remainder of 16 from 16 minus 10 is 6. So a 6 or under is another success. So I have 2 successes so far. Okay, orange is 9. I rolled a 1, so that's 9 or under. So that would be 3 successes. Green is 11, so that's 1 success. And I rolled that 1, so that's 2 more successes. Okay, blue is a 7, so that's 1 success, and he needed a 4, or she needed a 4 or under for an additional success, but she didn't get it. But that brings me up to 6 successes. Yellow is a 14, but I busted. I rolled a 10, so that negates any successes that yellow might have. And then my vehicle has a survival of 4, and what did I roll? I can't remember. I guess I rolled a bust on my D10 as well. I might have not checked that, but it doesn't matter. I don't need it. I pass. I only needed 3 successes and I have 6. So we overcome that part of the challenge. Next, we have our combat challenge, and we need 6 successes. Okay, so combat challenge, we'll roll our D10s. And again, I will place these out in order. So we have 2, or that was a 2 there. So we have red, orange, green, blue, yellow, and black. Okay, so I have 9 successes. Red character here, Bruce, has 28, so that means 2 successes with an 8 as the target number. He rolled a 2, so that will be 3 successes already just from Bruce. Again, my characters are really good at combat right now, but not so good at anything else down here. Orange is 1 guaranteed success with a 9, and he rolled a 7, so that's 4. And 4 successes. Green is 13, so that's 1 success and a 3, but he rolled a 4, so that's just 1. So that'll go up to 5. Blue is 24 and 5, so that's 2 successes, but I needed a 4 or under for a third. So that's 2 more successes, bringing me up to 7, which is the total that I need to overcome that. So we have overcome the survival and the combat challenge. And if we succeed, gain 1 prestige. Okay, I'll bump my prestige up to 5 there. Gain 2 town health. Hey, look, I hit that threshold of 40 for my town event. Excellent. Okay, and 1 spoils card. I'll draw a spoils card at random. And I have an event. During game setup, discard this card and draw a new spoils card. Okay, immediately draw 5 character cards. Select 3 and discard the rest. Excellent. Okay, so 3 characters have moved into my town. I can draw 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can choose 3 to move into my town. And these characters will go into my town roster. And as characters in my party, as they die, take too much damage, I can trade them out. So we have Jim Bryce. We have Wade Marlowe. Dante Slade. Brian Nash, and Renee Legrande. Okay, I think I'm going to make this decision off camera because there's a lot to comprehend here. There's a lot of things to go over. Their bonuses, their links, their links, their special abilities. But needless to say, 3 of these characters will be joining my faction. So I will do that off camera. Okay, when you track the brigands down and eliminate them, you track the brigands down and eliminate them. When you arrive back to town with the settlement's missing cattle, an enormous barbecue is held in your honor. You discuss your new partnership and celebrate your victory late into the night. Great, that was a super successful Plains encounter. We got some good stuff. Yeah, that is that. So I have 1 week left. So this will be a good example here. So I did overtake that resource. So now I can add one of my faction tokens to that resource. And now I can upgrade my resource from +1 to +2. And now at the beginning of each phase, when we do that production phase, I will gain 2 town health and 4 salvage coins. And because I overtook that, because I took that over, I also gain 1 prestige. So now I'm up to 6 prestige. And I have 1 week left. So I'll do another movement deed because I just did an encounter deed. So my last week will be movement here. And where did I want to go? I want to get to one of these missions. But I've won. So I think I will go ahead and 5 + 5 is 10. I think I'm going to move over to this next resource here. And a resource deed costs 2 weeks. So I have to do that after my movement. And because I'm out of weeks, that's actually going to delay me 2 weeks for my next turn. So I can go ahead and do this right now, even though I'm out of weeks in this month. Those weeks will carry over. That's super cool. So for this one, I think I will draw a little more difficult encounter. Let's draw a mountain encounter. So this is kind of the medium difficulty encounters here. A high-speed breakdown. If your party has no motorized vehicles, discard and draw another one. Okay, so again, the tying of theme, this is a high-speed breakdown. If you didn't have any cars, then this wouldn't make any sense, but I do have an armored car here. And so when cruising along at breakneck speed, your vehicle's engine block suddenly cracks. Oh no! With a horrific snap of and pistons burst violently through the hood. Gripping the steering wheel tightly, your driver curses and shouts, "We have a problem!" Efforts to maintain control of the vehicle are futile. It fishtails on the loose gravel and careens toward a deep ravine. The driver screams defiantly. Oh no, that sucks. Okay, so I get 4 salvage coins right away here. So let's take a 5 and discard a 1. And I have to overcome a mechanical test of 5 successes and then a survival test of 5 successes. I will do this off camera. You don't need to see me roll the dice and add up numbers, but that is another kind of test that I have to overcome. And so that would be the end of my turn. That would be the end of my exploits phase. And so now we go into our end turn phase. And here we would either, if we weren't playing with the expansion, we would roll on this chart to see what kind of little random thing happens to our town. But we are playing with the expansion, so we will now turn back to my town event. And for solo variants, I have to have at least 40 town health. And so if you have 4 or more, draw 3 character cards and place them in your town roster. And or if I have 4 or more and possess more than other players, so that one won't count because that's 4 other players. We just do this one here. So if I have 40 town health or more, I get to draw 3 more characters and place them in my town roster. So this is 3 more characters that are immediately going to go. I don't have to make a decision here. So we have, hey, Sean Cahill, one of the creators of the game. A lot of the people who worked on the game are actually characters in the game. I think that's really cool. He's a skilled tactician. We have Clayton Pitt, a conniving grease monkey, and Jane Doe, an amnesiac with a dark past. Okay, so these characters are going to go into my town roster. I already have 1 character in my town roster. I don't think we took a look at her, and that was Lynn North. So I have 4 characters in my town roster. I will get to choose 3 more to go in my town roster later. But that was kind of a full turn. You got a good idea of how Fallen Land 2nd Edition is played. One thing we need to do now, though, is our opposing faction. We roll to see the random victory points that they get. I really want to roll low. Oh my god, a 9. That's terrible. Plus 7 town health and plus 4 prestige. So I will go up to 51 town health and 4 prestige will take him up to 12. And then if you're playing a more advanced game, you can also have something else random happen that's really bad. So for an example, we could roll a d6 here and a 4. Discard a random character in your town roster. So we would have to mix those up and then discard one of those. And so that's the AI right there. It's all kind of random, but it does create some tension. But yeah, so Fallen Land, man. This game is so good. It has so much going for it. So many random encounters. We have all of these missions, and each one of these missions is a complex encounter. We have all of these plains encounters. So just so many random encounters. All of these random encounters that we can have in the mountains. All of these random encounters that we can have in the cities and the towns. We have all kinds of characters that you can discover. So much loot. This is only less than half of the loot that you can discover. All of these various action cards, just all of this awesome stuff that all points to having great adventures on your tabletop in this incredibly detailed and well-written post-apocalyptic setting. I really cannot say enough good things about Fallen Land. If I had any criticisms, I guess it would be the bookkeeping, the management. But with this sheet that I've made, with this simple town roster sheet, it's completely manageable. And it is kind of fun to keep track of things. And I like that house rule that I have where I can't go back and modify something if I forget, because it's part of the game. Part of the game is managing your characters, is managing your town. And I guess another complaint would be there's just a lot here. It's a little fiddly, but because of the great documentation, because of this first player sheet, and the quick start guide and the well-written rules, it's super easy to play. It's got just a huge number of different ways to play: solo, co-op, competitive, one and done, campaign, different scenarios with different objectives and different setups and kind of like a puzzly nature almost. Yeah, there's just so much good and so little bad about Fallen Land. I'd have to get really, really nitpicky to come up with some detriments to this game. Maybe there is a lot of text, and some of the text is kind of small. So uh, wear your glasses when you're when you're playing Fallen Land. And probably with any more than 3 players, the game would probably kind of draw to a crawl because your turns are pretty long and there's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of downtime for the other players, but as a solo game, there is no downtime. It's all fun. It's all on 100% of the time. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of my definitive review of Fallen Land Second Edition. And you will be hearing more about this game. This is a game that I will always, always have in my collection. I cannot imagine the Dungeon Dive game collection without a copy of Fallen Land Second Edition. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We will talk to you later. Bye bye.